RAM crisis. If you are Gen Alpha, let me tell you that RAM crisis is not a new thing. The RAM price crisis between 2013 and 2018 was one of those moments where building a PC suddenly felt like a luxury hobby instead of a practical one. Back then, people weren't upgrading their PCs. They were emotionally recovering from RAM prices. The reason was simple but brutal. Demand exploded and supply just couldn't keep up. Manufacturers shifted focus towards smartphones, which were rapidly growing and needed more and more memory. At the same time, only a few companies were actually making chips for RAM, so production couldn't scale fast enough. Now here's the funny part. We thought we learned our lesson. Fast forward to the current RAM situation, Gen Z may think it's déjà vu, because just like 2013, 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes kit now costs 2 or even 3 times more than before. Supply chains are tight, and once again, demand from servers, AI workloads, and modern devices is eating up available memory like it's unlimited. It's almost like RAM has two modes, affordable, and why is this more expensive than my CPU? Back then, people delayed upgrades, even downgraded their builds, or just accepted the pain and paid up. Today, same story, just with slightly better RGB lighting to distract you from the bill. Hard drive shortage. The hard drive shortage began in 2011 when severe flooding hit Thailand. At the time, Thailand was one of the world's biggest hubs for hard drive manufacturing, with many major factories based there. When the floods came, entire factories were submerged, bringing production almost to a complete halt. To put it into perspective, imagine you are playing PUBG and the guy with meds who revives you every time has suddenly gone offline. Support disappears instantly, but your need for it doesn't. As a result, prices shot up quickly. Hard drives became as rare as GPUs in 2017. It took down entire laptop market with it because there were no hard drives to put into brand new laptops. And even after the floodwaters receded, recovery wasn't immediate. It took months for factories to get back to normal, which kept prices elevated for quite some time. GPU shortage. The GPU shortage between 2017 and 2018 was most brutal and unforgettable PC hardware crisis gamers have ever experienced. And the main cause? This dude started it. Cryptocurrency mining, especially Ethereum, blew up. GPUs turned out to be insanely good at handling the calculations needed for mining, so suddenly they weren't just for gaming anymore, they were money printers. As profits increased, people didn't just buy one GPU, they bought all of them. Entire warehouses were filled with mining rigs. Demand didn't just rise, it went completely off the rails. To put it into perspective, imagine going to buy an RTX 3050 and seeing it priced like an RTX 5080. Even Jensen Huang would look at that price tag and say, "Yeah, I didn't plan that." GPUs vanished from shelves. Budget cards, gone. Mid-range cards, overpriced. High-end GPUs, basically mythical creatures. And for gamers, it was pure pain. People settled for whatever they could find or paid ridiculous prices just to get their hands on a card. Capacitor Plague. The OG of PC hardware crisis is Capacitor Plague. It affected almost every computer in the early 2000s. It was caused by faulty electrolytic capacitors used on motherboards, power supplies, and graphics cards. For noobs among us, capacitors are small components that store and regulate electrical power. They help keep voltage stable so that the system can run properly. During this period, millions of capacitors were manufactured with a defective formula. Over time, these capacitors would swell, leak, or even burst. This led to widespread hardware failures across many brands. Even relatively new systems started failing unexpectedly because there were so many points of failure. Motherboard, power supply, graphics card, a faulty capacitor could be anywhere. Manufacturers had to replace large numbers of components, which significantly reduced trust in hardware reliability during that time. The PSU shortage. The power supply shortage between 2020 and 2021 was one of those moments where even if you had everything ready, your PC still wasn't turning on. Yes, even if you survived the 2017 GPU crisis, 2020 came back like a second boss fight and said, "Now try finding a PSU." A power supply, or PSU, might not be the flashiest component, but it's the one thing every single part depends on. So what went wrong? First, crypto mining made a comeback. High-end GPUs were back in demand, and mining rigs weren't just using one system, they were running multiple, each needing reliable high-wattage power supplies. Second, modern GPUs and CPUs started consuming way more power than before. Suddenly, your old 500-watt PSU wasn't enough. Everyone needed 650 watts, 750 watts, even 1,000-watt units. And then COVID hit. Factories slowed down, supply chains broke, shipping got delayed. Basically, the entire global production pipeline said, "We'll get back to you later." Imagine finally getting your hands on a powerful GPU after all that struggle, but now you can't find a PSU strong enough to run it. It's like assembling a full squad in PUBG, gearing up perfectly, and then realizing no one picked up ammo. As a result, PSUs started disappearing from shelves, and the ones that were available were as expensive as an entry-level gaming PC. The silicon chip shortage between 2020 and 2023 wasn't just a PC problem, it was a full global meltdown. If your device had a chip in it, it was affected, and at this point it honestly felt like the entire tech world was running on low battery mode. At the center of it all were semiconductor chips, the tiny brains inside CPUs, GPUs, cars, phones, basically everything. The catch? These chips are made in extremely advanced factories that you can't just scale up overnight. It costs $2 billion and 2.5 years in making. So, what caused this chaos? COVID hit and suddenly everyone needed more tech. Work from home, online classes, gaming, streaming, demand skyrocketed. At the exact same time, factories slowed down, logistics broke, and supply chains got messy, and nobody knew whether demand will remain after 2 years. So investors were reluctant to put $2 billion into a new machine. Now here's where it gets ridiculous. It wasn't just gamers fighting for parts anymore, it was everyone. Car companies, phone manufacturers, console makers, all competing for the same limited supply of chips. Like having just one loot drop on an entire map of PUBG. As a result, everything got delayed. GPUs, CPUs, consoles hard to find. Prices through the roof. Even massive companies struggled to secure enough chips. At one point, it felt like silicon itself had become rarer than diamonds, and somehow everyone needed a piece of it at the same time. Here is another video you may like.